about what Friends of Baseball does. And Nova, good morning.
Good morning. I love getting a chance to talk baseball in late November.
Oh, it's always fun, isn't it?
Yes, it helps. It helps us wait for spring, right?
It does. So Nova has a passion for the game. I mean, she's kind of a lot like, well, me. I mean, Brian doesn't necessarily have the passion like I do, but Nova, I'll tell you, Nova's pretty passionate about baseball. And she has a heart for kids as well. And Nova, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, well, Friends of Baseball has been around since 2005, and the first 5 years of our organization, we were a family foundation and focused on grants from seed money from our founder, Keenan Longcore. And we got our 501c3 status in 2010, and from that time started to look at how we actually made a difference in the lives of individual players, families, communities. We had done a lot of the work around fields and providing grants for sustainability for leagues and teams, but we really started to get some, we got individual grants from parents, grant requests from parents saying, I need money for my kid to play baseball or softball, can you help? And so we developed a program where we were doing individual scholarships based on nominations coming from individual leagues, which we have done in, all over the state, on the coast, in Willamette Valley. We've done work down in Gold Valley and Medford. So really trying to spread our resources broadly. But one of the requests that came through came from a revitalized program at Jefferson High School in North Portland. And we basically, the head coach there had said that he was basically pulling kids out of the hallways and asking them to give them a couple of practices. Basically saying baseball's something you can do in spring. You don't have to be done if you aren't, the star football or basketball or track person at Jefferson. So we were really inspired by the work that he was doing because he really had that same vision that baseball's a vehicle to reach kids. And then all the rest of it is obviously, kind of a icing on the cake. And so we started to talk to him about our vision for increasing the pipeline of kids who are interested in playing baseball and softball. And what we brought to him was this idea of we really want to do a summer program that looks at baseball not just as the game that we all love, the organized game that we all love, but what it used to look like for kids, finding a ball in the park and turning that into baseball. What we see, if kids get out into nature, finding a kid that isn't going to pick up a stick and a rock and try to hit it or a pine cone, whatever it is. The idea of returning to that baseball is something that everyone has access to and that it can reach anyone. And so we put on a 1-week program that looked at baseball through all lenses. So we definitely had, high-level baseball instruction. We had Coach Gasser come out, who, is one of the winningest baseball coaches in all of Oregon high school history. And he really anchored the program with the, very specialized baseball instruction. But what we had the kids do in the mornings was we taught them games. Like, this is what you can do in your neighborhood. This is what you can do in your park. If you just have one ball and 3 kids or whatever it is, and it's baseball. It's still baseball. And we had guest instructors came in, and so we had a lesson on Negro League baseball and the impact on civil rights. And we had an illustrator come in and teach the kids how to draw portraits. We did, science and math. We taught the baseball positions and had the kids do Sudoku puzzles because, the 1 through 9 baseball positions ports really well to Sudoku. So really just like looking at baseball as this, again, this vehicle that is so rich, it's a sport that is so rich with, you can tie it into almost any academic enrichment and be able to reach kids who Maybe their interest in sports is the way to reach them academically, or way to reach them socially. And that's really the premise that our full count program is based on. And from that 1 week summer program, we did 4 weeks last, that was in 2015. This past summer, we did 4 weeks of programming, and had our first grants to fund that. And then we had opened up our first after-school programs last winter and spring, and now received a Nike Employee Fund grant through their OCF, Oregon Community Foundation program, to expand in the winter this year, to be in more schools. And this is something that Norm and I had talked in prep coming up for the show, is that there's, I think, a general kind of thesis statement that people use to say that we shouldn't invest in baseball, and that is that kids don't want to play it. And I'm telling you, not only do kids want to play it, they come up to us when they see our programs at the school. They come up to us on the playground and they say, "Can I play?" Like, they literally say it. And so our answer to that has been yes, to try to make that happen. So if a kid comes up and wants to play, we say yes, and we find a way to have them join our program. And so I think that's the thing that I love about being a nonprofit that is able to focus on this work, is that we're learning on the ground that some of the things that we all might believe to be true or have a concern about, that actually they're not true, and we can go at it in a different way. And we can come with resources, we can come with programming, and we can actually start to move that needle up and really make a solid foundation for baseball, in the future. So anyway, that's my pitch.
How many kids do you have involved in the program?
Last year we had so each program. What's really unique about our program is that it's really meant to provide some individualized attention, whether that's baseball instruction or whether that's supporting a youth, with some social challenges they may have, socio-emotional challenges. So I'd say our program averages about 15 to 17 kids for after school. And then the summer programs average about 25 to 30. Sometimes we've had as many as 35 in one of our 1 week programs. Yeah. And so overall, it's about 175 kids that have gone through our full count program, and we're just wanting to grow that. We're actually, our vision is that we get to 10 after school programs running in the Portland metro area. And obviously once we hit that goal, we'd like to move beyond the metro area.
That's pretty cool. And so, a little about me, I ran after school program here in McMinnville through the Parks and Rec Department. It is called Kids on the Block. And we are in, Kids on the Block was in every elementary school in the McMinnville School District. And so it'd be after school program. At one time, I was running the Columbus School program, and I had 145 kids.
Yeah.
After school. Yeah. And so there's a huge need for it.
Absolutely. And I thank you for saying that, because I think that 2:30 to 5 time frame is, I think, just an essential time of day. And what we kind of came and said, let's do something fun for kids, knowing that it's really needed. But what we've learned from actually being in the schools is just, with the way, and teachers, I have to give teachers a lot of credit for the work that they're doing. But the requirements around instructional time, there's just very little movement. And so when you're talking about second and third graders, first graders who come through our program, they are just climbing the walls to move. Mm-hmm. And so we get them moving. And so in some ways, we definitely go deep into baseball. By the end of the term, we do, a bad news bears kind of scrimmage, but we definitely, in some cases, have had to adapt, some of the curriculum stuff that we do in the summer. It's just not applicable in the after-school session because
Right.
they really need to move and play. You know, a lot of these schools only have one or two PE classes a week. I know that's starting to move back up again, or recess might be shortened because of the needs for instructional time, which I certainly support the work that we need to do with instruction. But oh my goodness, when I see these kids come out and I see how much, especially the tactile, physical boys and girls that really need this time. So I certainly love the work that we're doing with baseball, but in general, I think that as a society, we could turn our attention to this after-school time as a way to fill some of the community need that we have.
Oh, absolutely. And you had talked about that 2:30 to 5:30 block. That is huge in a child's life. I mean, one, you're just out of school. And so we're talking homework help. We're talking, getting them out and moving, getting some of that energy out. And on top of that, we're talking about getting them a healthy snack in them, to which,
Right.
When I was up at Columbus, I would say probably 65-70% of the kids that I worked with, if they weren't involved with my after-school program, they would go home to an empty apartment or an empty home. And
That's right.
so, there was no direction for them if they do it. And so, that is a big chunk of time that's pretty important.
Yeah, and what I think is really exciting is I'm starting to actually hear from some of our funders, which funding for this sort of work is very limited, unfortunately, and I think that's one of the things that Friends of Baseball would like to try to get out there with our message is just how critical funding for youth and community sports is. And we certainly have our focus on baseball, but we're actually starting to see youth sports starting to collaborate more. We've got a partnership with Positive Coaching Alliance, who has some support for their Portland chapter locally, and so they've been able to bring programs to us through they're a national organization. We're a local organization, so they've been able to bring some of their programs to us. But they want to connect with us because we have the connections and the network with the baseball leagues and teams, and bring out our coaches. And so if we can actually start to do a better job telling the story of community and youth sports, I think that's great for baseball, and I think that's great for kids and families. I think that baseball has this very unique way that it can contribute to our communities, and I think that anyone who's been involved with a youth league or a team where it's really working, where it's really going, you see the contribution and the power of the sport in the community itself. So, whether that's populating parks, when there's baseball games going on at parks, those aren't the parks that are being targeted for you don't see as many issues in parks where they're populated with
Right.
people, right?
Yep.
And so baseball does that, and I think we should start as a baseball community, softball community, start actually telling those stories to the folks who can direct resources to the work that we do, and say, we aren't the only answer, but we certainly are. We are part of the answer, and that contribution goes beyond the sport itself.
Where does your passion come from?
My own?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know you've got two children of your own, but I mean, and as a friend on Facebook, I know you tell a story about your dad quite often, whether it be, being a Portland State fan. I mean, is that where your passion came from? Was your dad?
Yeah, I mean, my dad, so I had kind of that splintered American family, and so when I went with my dad on the weekends, he took me to sporting events. So, I was his first child, and I was a daughter, and he was like, well, I'm going to raise you up in sports, and so he would take me down to Portland State Viking games, and, we went to lots of Portland Beaver games, and he like all dads, had his own challenges, but that was something that we connected on. And he always that was just a connection that he always kept up for me. You know, like he had a person that he worked at Providence for a long time, and he had a coworker there that knew that the Portland Beavers, not the most recent Portland Beavers, but the ones before, who left for Salt Lake, that they had a job in souvenirs, and I was a sophomore in high school, and so he was like, my daughter wants to do that. And so I went and got this job selling souvenirs. And, you know, that wasn't I wouldn't say that was the heyday of merchandise. So, you know, we had about 10 items, and the rest were all like Major League Baseball, you know, like the standings at the helmet. I sold a lot of those.
Yeah.
But he did that for me, and you know, I think that there's another piece. So my dad kind of started that connection for me. But also, I was playing softball in Powell Little League as a 9-year-old, so I didn't start super early like the kids do today. And I actually spent some time in the foster care system after having my mom had some significant challenges with substance abuse, and I ended up getting placed with a distant family member, and it was basically my brother's aunt, so not a biological aunt. And so she actually still lived in the area for my little league, and there's a point to all of this. I got to continue playing softball, and so for a lot of kids that are in that situation, not only do they move to a new placement, they often don't get placed with family members. That was a lucky thing for me. But also, they're usually not in their same neighborhood. And so they lose all their social structures at the same time. So that for me, I had this very, very fortunate placement in foster care that allowed me to maintain my social structures and the things that I was doing. So I continued to play softball, and I actually had a coach come up to me, I think it was my second year of playing, and say, I want you to be the catcher. And at that moment, I thought I actually thought that he was saying, I want you to be a leader. You know, I want you to take this team on your back, and you know, and of course, probably sounds silly that a 10-year-old thought that, but that's the way I thought. But you know, and I had no idea that really, like, as a baseball coach now, you know, a Little League baseball coach now, I realize that it's very few people that actually want to be the catcher. But I had this coach that I felt like had seen me and asked me to be a leader for the team. And so I did that, and I caught from the time I was 10 years old to the time I was 18. And I will tell you this, I was never a star player. I was, you know, the show up every day player and try not to mess up player. I will honestly say, very mediocre, but I loved that sport, and I loved what it gave to me. And I know that the first time I ever felt like a leader was on a diamond. So I think that's where my passion comes from. It's that connection to my family, but also that connection to feeling empowered and feeling like, okay, you know, and I was definitely a strikeout girl, but you have to get back up from that, you know,
yeah.
Or to play on teams that, honestly, I played on teams where we would do double headers and we'd lose them both on, you know, a horrible amount of walks, you know, like you do in Little League, and but I did it, and I went, and I had support, and I had friends and mentors in the community, and so I just feel like it is my responsibility as someone who now today has resources, has access to people who can support kids. It's my responsibility to do that, to give that back, because that's what I got from someone. And I wish I knew my coach's name. I actually don't remember my coach's name, which is so sad, but you know, I wish that he actually knew that moment was so influential. And so I think that that's what Friends of Baseball wants to do, is spark and inspire all those little moments that really can change a kid's life.
That's awesome. And, you know, we're doing the same here in Mac. You know, I work with the Parks and Rec and been with them for about 21 years helping out with their baseball and softball program. And, you know, I'm usually one of the first in this area that, you know, somebody goes to if they need some shoes or if they need a glove, because I've got that through the years. I've collected, gloves and with the lost and found, and
right.
And yeah, usually I'm the first one that people will go to, if a kid needs a glove, and that has always been one of my goals is, I'm going to outfit a kid if they can't afford it, it's
Absolutely.
no problem, and I ask nothing for return, except for when they're done, if they don't play anymore, make sure that the glove or shoes or whatever, if they're in good shape, gets passed on, as a paid again, play it forward type deal. And baseball and softball, it's unique in that way. And we discussed this a little bit last night. Baseball and softball is a game of failure. And, it's unlike any other sport to, a Hall of Fame hitter, you hit 330 for a career and you're considered a Hall of Famer. And that's failing. In real world, that's, you're hitting 33% of the balls, and that's not good.
You're right.
And,
right.
And that's one of the things that I'm teaching, trying to teach my nephew and his buddies, at 7 coaching their team is, embrace, as Joe Madden says, try not to suck or embrace the suck,
Right.
And, failing is okay. It's what you do with the failure is how that's going to define you in the end. And so, failing is growing. And, we need to teach these kids, they're so used to sitting in front of the video games and losing and throwing a fit because they lost. Losing is a part of life. And everybody does it. All these professionals, they've lost. They fail. But in the end, that's what usually makes them stronger.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things about that is, and again, I always try to think about how does this have a message for, the the baseball people, the softball people, we get it. We get what the sport does. But thinking about parents who are choosing activities for their kids, we obviously focus our donations and grants on low-income youth and students of color because there's such a need there. But I think that the lessons of baseball cross all. It's not just certain kids need it. All kids need what baseball and softball provides, or something like it. And so what we one of the things that we try to teach in our programs, we've got a lot of wiffle ball that we do because we're inside, and so we teach them the rules of the game if you were going to play the organized game. But what we do is we adapt our drills to try to instill some of these messages. So for one of the games that we play, it's a straight up wiffle ball game, but they get 3 swings. And they, obviously if they hit the ball, they run. But if on that 3rd swing they miss the ball, we actually still have them run. Because, and we talk to the kids about that, and we say, why would we do that? Why would we have you run? You struck out. And, they come up with lots of different answers. But what we really try to say to them is, when you strike out in a game, you have to find a way, one, to walk yourself back to the dugout. Go back out onto the field when your team goes back out on the field, perform there, and then eventually come right back up to bat. And so what we try to do with that little drill is instill in them that, okay, you swung and you missed it, but you're gonna finish your loop. You're gonna run the bases and finish your loop because you're gonna get yourself back up. And that's I think powerful to the kids to see that, because I will tell you, and I can imagine, Norm, that you know this as well from your experiences, that a lot of the kids who act out are actually trying really hard to be good. I'll put good in quotes. Failure is one of the things that produces an act out. So that's like a key intervention area for us to be present in, right?
Absolutely.
So we can respond to their acting out on failure one way, or we can respond another way. And that's why I love some of the collaboration that's happening, because last year at our Positive Coaching Alliance, with our Positive Coaching Alliance partnership, one of the things that I took away, because I actually, I go to our clinics and I organize them, but I also sit there and write notes as a coach too. But but just this whole idea of a mistake ritual. That's something, here's, brush off your shoulders, or crumple up a piece, an imaginary piece of paper and throw it. And like for some of the kids, they are more like they have sense of humor, and so you can flush the mistake. To actually do some sort of thing that says, I failed, but I'm gonna get rid of that. Kind of emotionally, I'm gonna get rid of that, and then I'm gonna be back in. And so, any ways that we can kind of interrupt that, I think is so important for our kids. And I think the other thing is that as someone who coaches farm baseball and thinking about moving up to the minors level next year, which is a little bit intimidating, but I think that we need to say that we need to admit to something that is, I think, hard sometimes when we think about high competition, and that is that it's actually quite brave for a 7-year-old boy or girl to get up in front of their peers and their family and stand in a batter's box.
Oh, absolutely.
And that might be step one, right? That might be step one of that person's growth, is just being able to put their feet in that box. That's not where everybody's at. Some kids are further along, but to be able to hold that for them and not have it be the end of their path, not say that's the only thing that matters, but that first step actually has weight and matters, and moving them along that path. If we can do that by the end of the season or the end of a program, that's what I think that we can do around that failure idea.
Perfect. So what do you guys have going on? Did you just have a banquet here not too long ago?
We did, yes. We had, this was our second year of our annual gala, and we raised we set a goal at the beginning of the year to raise $100,000. We're a little over halfway there, which kind of helps to fund both summer and after school. So what we're trying to get to is, like I said, 10 after school programs running. We're going to be at between 4 and 6 in after the new year. We're still identifying schools. And so we did that, which is really, really exciting. And what's nice about that is that it allows us to partner up with new service providers in the area that are already at these schools. And so we just come in and do the baseball piece, which is great. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just come in with our coaches and our gear and our lesson plans, and we get to do what we like to do, which is nice. So, facilities are taken care of, and actually each of those service providers does a coach match, so they provide the assistant coach for the program, which is really great. And then the other thing that we did at our event, which was really a big passion of mine, is we actually worked with Multnomah County librarians to come up with what we're calling a full count library, and that is basically 10 to 15 books that have an educational theme or purpose that also are baseball themed. And so we had those at our event, and people were able to either donate a book to one of our schools, or they were able to donate the full library. And at the end of the event, we were able to fund 10 to 11 full count libraries in schools in the region, which is just really cool. It's
that is pretty cool.
Have you never heard of Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente, and a book called The Ship, which is just beautifully illustrated history of Negro League baseball. There's Girl Wonder, which is nice for some of our girl participants in the program. Just one H is for home run, which kind of goes through a lot of the different aspects of the game. So just really cool books, and that's really close to me. I was a big reader as a kid, and so to contribute to to the schools that we're at, to contribute to the broader school community, whether they're in our program or not, with these books, it's really it's a privilege to get to do that.
Brian and I were talking about kind of filling him in on our little conversation last night. And over the Christmas break, we would like to possibly do a live show from Baseballisms with you and bring you in and talk a little bit more about the program. I think what you guys are doing is awesome. And, I know, I wish I lived a little bit closer to where I could be more involved, because I think that's an organization that I could definitely be more involved. Living out here in McMinnville, it's a little bit more of a drive. But yeah, we would definitely love to, get together and have you do a live show with us, and we'll come up there for, Baseballisms, and set up shop there at Baseballisms and possibly do a show.
That'd be wonderful, and nonprofits like ours, like this is you doing something for us. This is you giving us the platform to talk about what we do and share ways to get involved. And we've just launched our new website. It's the same address, but it's a new look and feel.
I love the logo.
Baseball.org. Thank you. Yeah. We had a marketing agency who also just has a bunch of people who love baseball, and they did an in-kind project with us. So I would say, yes, we can always do more, but it's huge having people get to hear about us. That's one of the things that is hard to come by. So we appreciate it very much.
All right, Brian. Now I'm going to put Brian on the spot. So I chatted with Nova a little bit last night about this, and so we're going to go music. We're going to talk a little bit of music here. And so, Brian, we're going to go back to 80s music. And you know the drill. So Brian's actually looking up 80s music on it. He gets a cheat, unfortunately. And so we're gonna start with Nova, and let's do a couple of rounds, and we'll go around. And it doesn't necessarily have to be favorite song. It could be a favorite 80s song if you want it to be. But we'll let you start it off, Nova.
Okay, do I need to do the year? I'm not sure.
Nah, just do the song and artist.
All right, so Falco, Rock Me Amadeus.
Oh, that's a good one. I love Falco. See, now I necessarily wouldn't have gone Rock Me Amadeus. I probably would have gone. Oh man, there was a couple of others. He did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tacoma Sar. Brian, what do you got?
Run DMC. My Adidas. All right.
That's a good one, too. So, Rupert Holmes, we talked a little bit about Rupert Holmes. Unfortunately, that was 1979, so I can't use.
He did bring it into the 80s, like he said.
But I'm going to go. How about Eddie Rabbit?
I love a rainy night.
I love a rainy night. That's right.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I haven't thought about that song in a long time.
All right, Nova, what else you got?
Duran Duran, Hungry Like the Wolf.
Oh, another good one.
Def Leppard, Pyromania.
One of the all-time greatest albums, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm going to go with Motley Crue, Too Fast for Love.
That'll work.
Do we go back around? We're making quite the BP mix.
I know, we are, right?
Very eclectic.
All right, Nova.
Again?
Absolutely.
One more round.
All right. Gosh. Janet Jackson, Control.
Ooh, okay.
AC/DC, Thunderstruck.
One of the all-time greatest anthem songs. You hear that wherever you go, stadium. I'm going to go one of my all-time favorite baseball songs. And I know what you guys are going to be thinking.
You could be center field.
I'm going to go with Madonna, Like a Prayer.
Oh, baseball song. That's
and
a baseball
so now
song
people, it is. And if I was to put out a baseball, songs of baseball, for me, that screams being in a baseball stadium, and
right.
Some of the fielder music. And so always has been on my list. And Nova, it's always fun having you on. And
yes, thank you so much.
Let's get together and let's make this let's make this show over Christmas break happen, over at Baseballisms, and let's do it again.
That'd be fun. Thank you guys
and
so
where
much.
Can we find Friends of Baseball?
Do you mean our website?
Absolutely.
friendsofbaseball.org. And as you might imagine, I'm out at the schools all the time, so we have an office, but we're not there that often.
All right, friendsofbaseball.org, a great organization out of Portland area. Check them out, and you know what? Let's support these guys. And so,
thank you.
You're welcome, Nova. Thank you, and hey, you have a great Thanksgiving.
You too.
All right, Nova. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
All right, once again, Miss Nova, Newcomer, and man, I'll tell you, what they're doing up there in Portland is pretty cool, Brian.
It's very cool.
I'm telling you, I think Lenny is a perfect fit. For them.
I think so too. I think Lenny would be perfect. I think he would totally get behind it and be a great spokesman for it.
I totally agree. And so check them out, friendsofbaseball.org. Great website. Pretty cool looking logo.
Yeah, check it out. If you haven't been to their website lately, it's all revamped.
They do some pretty cool things up there in the Portland area, much needed, giving some of these kids opportunities that they normally probably wouldn't have. And, I'm all for that. I'm all for the kids and helping them find different things to do and whatnot. And so, wow, Brian, what else we got?
Gosh.
Linfield advances to the second round of the NCAA D3 playoffs.
They'll be on the road in Texas, I'm sure. I haven't even checked this morning. I don't want to.
They are playing at Mary Hardin Baylor.
Yeah.
A rematch. It's going to be a heck of a game. I think it'll be a better game than the first round. It should be, hopefully.
First round wasn't bad. I mean, it was a pretty tight game until fourth quarter. I mean, it was closer than the score.
Yeah,
pretty much said. But remember what happened last time they played? First game of the season for the Wildcats.
Well, it was the second game.
Second game of the season.
They got rolled.
Yeah, probably the biggest roll the Cats have had in quite some time.
50 years? It's been a long time.
In my lifetime, yeah.
It's been a long time. Yeah. But I honestly don't think that will happen again.
You don't think so?
No.
It's hard to beat the football team twice in one season.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to have, even though I'm wearing my Linfield sweatshirt today, I'm going to have to say that it's going to be tough. And
it is.
I think they're going to, not I hate to say it, they're going to lose.
I think it is going to be tough. And I think that we might not have a different outcome as far as winners or losers.
Right.
But I don't think the Cats are going to get steamrolled like what they did before. It's possible.
I hope you're right.
But if you remember, the Cats had problems with turnovers and a couple of injuries. I think the Cats are going to be more ready to play this game than the last one. And
it won't be that hard to be more ready than the last one.
That's true.
So if they could keep it, and they could win this game, they really could.
It's possible.
They've improved as a team, but going to Texas, coming home, going back to Texas,
tough.
It's tough. It's gonna.
Plus, you throw in Thanksgiving in there. It's tough.
I think Thanksgiving is going to be on the plane.
I think they're going to have Thanksgiving down there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but hey, once again, Mr. Brian Erickson. I'm Norm, wearing my Israel Strong shirt today. I'm really excited for the World Baseball Classic coming up. Baseball season, here in America is starting to wrap up. We just had the championship game of the Arizona Fall League yesterday, and now it's just pretty much winter seasons, which I still follow. I have a handful of guys that I'll check on in the Australian League or the the Caribbean leagues and stuff like that. So baseball is far from being over. But now we're just kind of, in the hot stove here in America, just kind of, waiting for some moves. And we've had a couple of interesting pickups. The Houston Astros, Brian's Houston Astros, picked up Brian McCann and Josh Reddick and, a couple of left-handed bats that they definitely needed. I'll tell you, man, that's pretty good pickups for the Astros. McCann, is definitely, as a catcher, he's kind of towards the end of his career, but still a great clubhouse guy. And, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where all the big players fall over the winter. So for all your hot stove action, turn in to our buddies over at Hot Stove, MLB.com. Or not MLB.com, MLB TV network, Harold Reynolds from nearby Corvallis, Oregon. And so, once again, Brian, Norm, we are Clubhouse Chatter. And Brian, are we going to be back next Sunday? I think so.
Yeah, we think we are.
Okay.
We'll see.
And so Mark Littell, I think, is going to be coming on, and he's going to talk about his career and his book, and he's going to talk about the Nutty Buddy. And no, it's not that little chocolate peanut butter wafer bar. And so he'll explain that next week, and it's a great thing, taking a baseball cup to a whole new level. And so we are sponsored by baseballisms.com. If you like my hat, curing childhood cancer, baseballisms.com. Baseballdudes.com. To be the best, you must train like the best. Chris Gazelle up there, Vancouver, Washington. Also, Base by Pros, Mitch Canham out of Washington as well, building an athlete sports education. And his dad, Mark Canham, does our shirts for us over in Lebanon, MDM Designs. Check him out. And we stream live every week, yamltoday.com. Any questions, any comments, hey, send them to normbo18@gmail.com. We're also looking for sponsors. If you want to sponsor this show, let me know. Hey, you can find us on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, MLB.com, blogs, Clubhouse Chatter, or just do a search on Google. You know, chances are you might come up with one of our Lenny Randall interviews or Rupert Holmes, which we had him on a show about a month ago and was awesome. And, hey, you know, if you know somebody who would be great on the show, you know, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. Have a great Thanksgiving, Brian. Thanksgiving, man.
It's
Turkey
here.
Day.
We made it. Got the barbecue ready. Got the turkey in the fridge.
I'm excited. I know our family's doing a barbecue turkey and a deep fried turkey and probably regular turkey as well. And so probably one of my favorite holidays.
And I'll be there about probably noon. Does that work?
Noon,
All right.
noon is fine.
Perfect.
Noon is fine. So, hey, we will catch you next week. And happy birthday to Frenchie, Bill LeSueur, and Skylar Borman. See you guys later.